You are standing in a softly lit room. The hum of quiet conversations surrounds you like a heavy, invisible blanket. Faint clinking of glass echoes gently in the background of your awareness. Someone approaches your personal space with deliberate, confident steps. Their extended hand signals a universal, ancient gesture of greeting. A warm, inviting smile sits comfortably on their face. This pleasant expression instantly disarms your immediate neurological defenses. Looking directly into your eyes feels strangely intense, yet completely expected. Over the ambient noise, their voice rings out clear and steady. Those few specific syllables are uttered perfectly into the air between you. These exact sounds define their entire existence in this world. A brief, polite handshake happens naturally. The interaction seamlessly transitions into the familiar rhythm of casual small talk. Seconds begin to tick by in slow motion. Maybe 30 or 40 of them pass in a blur of polite pleasantries. Wanting to address this new acquaintance directly feels necessary for basic etiquette. You open your mouth to ask a simple follow-up question. Perhaps inquiring about their career seems like a completely safe bet. Suddenly, a cold, sinking panic sets in deep within your chest. An icy realization washes over your conscious mind without warning. The mental whiteboard where those vital syllables should be permanently written has been wiped totally clean. Ruthlessly, the critical data has vanished into the void. Nothing remains in that space at all. Not a single starting letter can be found by your desperate searching. Even a vague phonetic shape completely fails to materialize. Just a vast, echoing emptiness sits where an entire human identity should be securely stored. Frantically, your internal monologue searches your immediate memory banks. Scanning the last few moments of dialogue takes intense cognitive effort. Desperately hoping for a contextual clue feels like a matter of absolute social survival. Complete silence echoes loudly in your brain's auditory processing center. The syllables are gone forever, vanished into the ether. It feels exactly as if they were never spoken in the first place. Guilt immediately takes deep root inside your stomach. Blooming heavy and dark, this shame settles uncomfortably within you. Smiling and nodding mechanically becomes your only active defense mechanism. Pretending everything is perfectly normal takes immense, exhausting concentration. Simultaneously, an inner voice is berating you without mercy. Feeling terribly, irredeemably inconsiderate is an overwhelming emotion to carry in public. Maintaining eye contact suddenly feels like walking a dangerous tightrope. Every passing second increases the unbearable, silent pressure of the interaction. Does this specific, agonizing scenario feel uncomfortably familiar to your daily life? Have you ever walked away from a genuinely pleasant conversation feeling like an absolute fraud? Terrified they might notice your linguistic gymnastics is a highly common, secret fear. Jumping through conversational hoops just to avoid addressing them directly happens all too often. Using generic terms like underscore, quote, underscore, zero, underscore, quote, underscore, one, underscore, or simply avoiding direct nouns becomes a desperate survival strategy. Society has spent centuries training us to believe this specific failure is a deep character flaw. We are constantly told it is a glaring symptom of hidden arrogance. A subtle sign of disrespect is often assumed by those who never seem to struggle with this issue. Many view it as a complete lack of genuine empathy for our fellow human beings. Popular culture dictates that if you truly cared about others, you would naturally hold on to their identity. Effortlessly retaining the most important word in their personal vocabulary is expected as a baseline of human decency. Business gurus routinely claim that remembering this detail is the ultimate key to professional success. Self-help books insist that forgetting is a deliberate choice made by a lazy, unfocused mind. We have internalized these harsh, unforgiving judgments completely. Carrying this heavy shame alters how we approach every single new introduction. We brace for inevitable failure before the handshake even fully concludes. What if everything you have ever been told about this embarrassing mental glitch is completely wrong? Consider the liberating possibility that this phenomenon has absolutely nothing to do with how much you care. It might actually have everything to do with how your biological hardware processes complex reality. Let us slowly peel back the layers of this universally awkward experience. The core assumption we carry is that human memory operates exactly like a high-definition tape recorder. Faithfully capturing every single audio and visual input seems like a logical, basic assumption. Recording reality without prejudice is what we expect our minds to do effortlessly all day long. Reality is far stranger and much more incredibly selective than we realize. Your mind is actually a brutal, unforgiving, and highly efficient editor. Constantly deleting gigabytes of sensory information is required every single second of your waking life. Keeping your fragile consciousness from collapsing under the weight of infinite data is its primary, critical job. When a stranger extends their hand in greeting, your cognitive machinery is instantly flooded. A massive, overwhelming wave of urgent survival data hits your central nervous system at light speed. Visual processing centers are immediately busy analyzing their facial symmetry for familiarity. Decoding their microscopic muscle twitches for subtle signs of threat takes supreme evolutionary priority. Categorizing the specific tone and pitch of their voice requires immense computing power from your auditory cortex. Simultaneously, a background application in your mind is frantically managing your own physical presence. Dictating exactly how firm your handshake should be is a highly complex, real-time physical calculation. Monitoring the angle of your posture happens automatically to ensure you do not appear overly submissive or aggressive. Desperately trying to ensure your facial expression appears appropriately engaged takes massive conscious effort. Right in the dead center of this intense, high-speed data processing storm, the stranger drops a highly abstract piece of audio information. They simply say a random, disconnected word. Unlike a visual object or a physical sensation, this specific word lacks any immediate context. There is absolutely nothing tangible for your organic brain to latch onto. Imagine someone tells you they make their living as a professional baker. Your imagination instantly conjures up a rich tapestry of vivid, relatable imagery. Smelling the faint, comforting scent of fresh sourdough happens almost instinctively in your olfactory memory. Visualizing a crisp white apron dusted heavily with flour is remarkably easy for the mind to do. Feeling the exhaustion of early morning working hours is a universally relatable human concept. Psychologists and memory researchers actually call this specific phenomenon the Baker-Baker paradox. It is a fascinating, deeply revealing cognitive quirk that exposes our mental wiring perfectly. This core concept flawlessly illustrates our daily invisible struggle with abstract human identities. Meeting a man who tells you his profession is being a baker almost guarantees long-term retention. You will likely recall that specific fact weeks, perhaps even years, later without trying at all. However, if that exact same man introduces himself and says his last name is Baker, things change drastically. The statistical chances of you retaining that crucial information plummet dramatically toward absolute zero. The exact same acoustic sound waves enter your ear canal, vibrating the exact same delicate bones in your inner ear. The physical input is perfectly identical. Why does one piece of data stick like industrial glue while the other evaporates like morning mist? The concept of a profession creates a rich, deeply interconnected web of semantic associations. Across various neural pathways, it automatically links to things you already deeply understand. Emotions you have previously felt are subtly triggered by the broader concept of baking. Scenes you can easily visualize are brought instantly to the forefront of your mind's eye. The last name, conversely, is an isolated, lonely, and entirely abstract data point. Floating completely alone in the turbulent, chaotic waters of your working memory, it remains totally disconnected. Lacking any existing mental framework makes it incredibly fragile and vulnerable to deletion. Being prone to instant, permanent erasure is its natural, default biological state. A name is essentially just a random collection of sounds assigned arbitrarily to a biological entity. Unless you happen to know someone else with that exact moniker, there is no structural bridge to prior knowledge. Your brain simply sweeps it away into the mental trash bin to make immediate room for more relevant survival data. Understanding your working memory requires viewing it as a tiny, highly volatile mental notepad. It should never be thought of as a massive, perfectly organized filing cabinet. Instead, it possesses the limited capacity to hold only a handful of distinct items for roughly 20 seconds. During those crucial, fleeting seconds of an initial introduction, your brain is almost never actually focusing on the incoming audio. Psychologists refer to this specific universal distraction as the next-in-line effect. Instead of actively listening to the stranger's voice, your internal monologue is loudly dominating the center stage. Busy calculating your own upcoming performance, you are entirely consumed by intense self-awareness. What clever, highly engaging thing will you say next to impress them? How will you carefully curate your own introduction to appear competent, friendly, and interesting? Your powerful spotlight of attention has completely swung inward, illuminating only your own insecurities and plans. The auditory input of their introduction physically hits your eardrums, but the data never actually gets written down. Therefore, you did not actually forget it. Losing something you never actually possessed is a physical and logical impossibility. Shifting the perspective in this way dramatically alters how we view our own agonizing social failures. The root issue is not a shameful lack of empathy or a decaying, broken memory system. It is instead a fundamental misallocation of cognitive attention fueled by subtle, almost imperceptible social anxiety. Whenever we step into a new, untested social dynamic, our bodies react invisibly. Deep down, driven by ancient, unyielding evolutionary programming, we desperately want to be liked and accepted. We crave the profound safety of making a good impression on the pack. We fundamentally need to belong to the wider human tribe to survive. This primitive, deeply ingrained survival instinct triggers a microscopic dose of cortisol into our bloodstream. In that highly charged moment, this stress hormone temporarily hijacks the hippocampus, forcing priority on immediate social survival over the luxury of long-term data collection is what your brain does best. For highly sensitive individuals, this blinding, chaotic effect is magnified exponentially. Their working memory is already furiously juggling a million rapid-fire thoughts at once. Analyzing the harshness of the room's lighting takes up valuable bandwidth. Filtering the distracting background noise of other conversations requires immense focus. Reading the complex, unspoken emotional undercurrents of the entire room leaves little room for anything else. Expecting a random, highly abstract noun to survive that chaotic, swirling storm of sensory processing is almost completely absurd. Yet despite this biological reality, we continue to brutally, relentlessly punish ourselves for the inevitable failure. Carrying this heavy, entirely invisible burden of shame shapes our personalities. Assuming the other person will feel deeply invalidated and hurt if we confess our mind simply went blank, we hide the truth. We choose the exhausting, anxiety-inducing path of deception rather than simple honesty. Consider for a moment the profound, slightly melancholic philosophical implications of this daily occurrence. We spend our lives walking through the world, so desperately trapped inside our own internal narratives, so intensely focused on carefully curating our own projected identities, we miss the actual reality in front of us. That we physically lack the bandwidth to absorb the identity of the breathing human being standing right there is a tragedy. The human ego constantly builds a massive, invisible fortress of self-awareness. Present physically in the room, we remain tragically, undeniably absent from the actual human connection. Confronting this realization forces us to face a slightly uncomfortable truth about modern human interaction. Most of our early conversations are not actually genuine, flowing exchanges of mutual energy. Rather, they are highly synchronized, defensive performances executed by two fragile egos. Breaking this endless, exhausting cycle requires fundamentally altering our entire approach to the present moment. Learning to temporarily, bravely dismantle that internal fortress of self-monitoring becomes the ultimate lifelong goal. Instead of rapidly preparing your own witty lines while the other person is speaking, you must pause. Forcing the blinding spotlight of your attention purely outward takes incredible conscious practice. Anchoring your entire consciousness entirely on the specific sound of their voice changes everything. Even with flawless execution of this profound presence, your biology might still betray you. When that inevitable blankness happens, the true, profound test of your social grace finally begins. Vulnerability, rather than flawless memory recall, becomes the ultimate antidote to this deeply human glitch. Imagine the quiet, highly disruptive power of simply smiling and intentionally pausing the social performance. Executing that simple, terrifying act of total honesty instantly strips away layers of exhausting pretense. I was so focused on making a good impression that my brain missed your name. Could you tell me again? Transforming a moment of potential agonizing shame into a moment of genuine, disarming connection is beautiful. Proving that you are not a flawless data processing machine makes you instantly more relatable. Revealing yourself as a present, attentive, and beautifully imperfect human being is the highest form of charisma. Maintaining the intense pressure to be socially perfect is a collective, heavy illusion we all uphold. Willingly dropping that heavy illusion is profoundly, unexpectedly liberating for both you and the person standing across from you. Think deeply right now about the fleeting, passing interactions you have already experienced today. Reflect quietly on the various faces that passed by your vision and the hands you casually shook. Were you truly, deeply there with them in those passing, unrepeatable seconds? Or were you simply waiting for your turn to speak in the dark, isolated theater of your own mind?